innovative. Manners.
Solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Setia solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda.
Jakarta Capital City Government will stay committed to remain trustful and wholeheartedly dedicate our efforts to fulfill the basic needs and civil rights to every citizen through providing quality public services.
Bagi warga ibu kota, kerja tanpa lelah, memberikan yang terbaik dengan inovasi tiada henti. Multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani. Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ini.
We work with full dedication in order to realize our commitment as the licensing solution for Jakarta citizens.
Dengan inovasi tiada henti, multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani.
Come and grow with Jakarta, smart city, smart opportunities.
bersama Jakarta, berkomitmen terus memberikan hanya yang terbaik, serta menghadirkan kesejahteraan bagi masyarakat Jakarta. Untuk menghadapi tantangan ekonomi global yang tak lagi terbatas, kami terus berinovasi agar kami selalu dapat beradaptasi pada perubahan di sekitar kami. Berbagai layanan kebutuhan pun telah kami hadirkan untuk melayani seluruh lapisan masyarakat, Dan kami tidak pernah berhenti untuk selalu
Ladies and
mengabdi.
gentlemen, we will commence the program shortly. Therefore, we would like to take this opportunity to remind you of the following housekeeping measures.
Diawali dengan berdirinya
Kindly
perusahaan
follow
tanah dan
appropriate
bangunan
health and
pada
safety
tahun
protocols, such as
1999
always wear a mask,
dengan
wash your
terbitnya
hands
peraturan
regularly,
daerah
or
Provinsi
apply
DKI
hand
Jakarta
sanitizer frequently,
atas dasar
and
kebutuhan
keep a
akan
safe
properti
distance.
yang memadai,
All crews and
fungsional,
talents involved in
serta
this
memiliki
program
daya
have
dukung
followed
pembangunan
strict
jangka
health
panjang,
protocols and obtained negative COVID-19 test results.
hingga perusahaan tanah dan bangunan
And ladies and
terus
gentlemen, before the
berinovasi
event starts,
dan
I would like to invite you to be
bertransformasi
seated.
menjadi
You may find our
perumda
ushers
pembangunan
ready to
Sarana
guide you
Jaya.
to your seat. Your cooperation is appreciated.
Kini kami semakin yakin untuk menjadi perusahaan yang selalu berinovasi dalam mempertahankan eksistensi di bidang pembangunan yang ada di Jakarta, serta terus berkomitmen menjaga, mengkonservasi, dan membangun hanya yang terbaik bagi Jakarta. Berbagai layanan dan kebutuhan properti pun telah kami hadirkan. Dari Anda memulai pagi hingga Anda menutup hari. Mulai dari hunian, perkantoran, pusat perbelanjaan, fasilitas umum, hingga perhotelan. Dengan visi menjadi perusahaan pengembang yang terkemuka dan berkelanjutan di Indonesia, serta misi mengembangkan bisnis properti yang
Jakarta Investment Center has served more than 50 project facilitations, ranging from infrastructure, transportation, water management, and environmental sector. Through one-stop integrated services, we provide easier permit and licensing application for you to grow your business. Jakarta Investment Center is ready to serve you in making your investment process hassle-free.
As the largest metropolitan region in the Southern Hemisphere, Jakarta is and will remain as Indonesia's economic powerhouse. With a suite of professionals from multiple levels of Jakarta's provincial government, the Jakarta Investment Committee specializes in formulating policy solutions that are genuinely win-win for all stakeholders.
Jakarta Investment Center and Jakarta Investment Committee were established by the Jakarta Capital City Government together with Bank Indonesia as a regional investor relation unit. We strive to actively communicate regional economic policy and address the concern of investors, especially in terms of financial and investment climate. Together, we are committed to optimize investment growth across Jakarta. And we are excited to do more.
By working together with you
In building a better Jakarta. Come and grow with Jakarta.
Invest now,
Invest
invest
Jakarta.
Jakarta.
Hi everyone, let's give a big round of applause for the video that we just saw. So you've seen how Jakarta has been actively promoting the green investments with the Jakarta Investment Center and Komite Investasi Jakarta. Now, as we saw on the video as well, the Jakarta Investment Center and Komite Investasi Jakarta strong effort have resulted in numerous collaborations with the global counterparts. So we make sure that your investments will be hassle-free in Jakarta, hopefully. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. I hope you're all refreshed after the coffee break just before this one. My name is Rahma Alia, and I'm going to be leading this discussion, which is the last one. So hopefully everyone is still on for this discussion. In particular, we'll be discussing about the private and public collaboration or partnership in boosting the green investment, especially here in the city. Once again, distinguished guests, delegates, also investors, thank you so much for making the time off your busy schedules for attending this event. And this event is also live streamed through Jakarta YouTube channel and Layanan Jakarta YouTube channel. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I would just like to give you a bit of background of what we're going to be discussing this afternoon. As we know, the green investment is kind of a hot topic that has been widely and exclusively discussed globally. And the succession of this green investment is actually on how we can build a mutual partnership with the private sectors and making sure that the implementation is successful. And this is, accordingly with the transition of Indonesia, Jakarta, and globally as well as we transition from for the low emission fuel in hoping to make the financial system also changing. So this is quite transformational. This is what we're going to discuss today. And certainly the goal of the green investment is actually to also open more opportunities for the local market players so that they can be more socially and environmentally responsible in conducting their business as well as investment. Now, we want the money to come in, but definitely the streams of funding usually requires a country to fulfill some kind of an eligible requirements in order to attract investors. We need to make sure we are okay, we're doing okay in the country. So let's utilize this session to discuss all that. I'm going to invite all the investors, all the private and public players as well, sectors as well, and other business players that are here today. Let's discuss this. So on this panel session, I'm going to invite 5 speakers, distinguished speakers. Let me just introduce you one by one. All right, let me begin by introducing to you our distinguished speaker, Mrs. Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, the Deputy Minister for Economic Affairs, Ministry of National Development Planning, or Bappenas. Very good afternoon to you, Ibu Winnie, if you're here with us. She's joining online with us today. All right. Seems like she will be joining shortly, hopefully. So I'm going to call out our next speaker then. Now, we have here with us Mr. Luki Alfirman, the Director General of Budget Financing and Risk Management from the Ministry of Finance. Please give a big round of applause for Pak Luki. Please join me on the stage, Pak. So, Pak Luki is appointed as Director General of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Ministry of Finance from 2017. Beforehand, he was appointed as the Assistant Minister for State Budget Policy, Acting President Director of Indonesia Endowment Fund for Education, also Director of Center for Policy Analysis and Harmonization, or Chief of Staff for Minister of Finance at the same institution. So it's been a while in the ministry, sir. And under his leadership, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia was awarded for Best Bonds and Best SSA Bonds from Global Capital Asia in 2021. Wow, what an impressive CV here. All right, and our third speaker I would like to call to the stage as well. Would you like to join us here? Mr. Yoga Adiwinarto, Director of Operation and Safety of PT Transportasi Jakarta, on behalf of the President Director. Please join us here, sir. So ladies and gentlemen, Pak Yoga for the past 10 years was known as the Director of Transportation and Development Policy for Southeast Asia in Institute Transportation and Development Policy, or the ITDP Indonesia. And beforehand, he finished his master's degree in transport planning from the University of Leeds in the United Kingdom. After the past 10 years serving as a director in ITDP Indonesia starting from 2019, now he serves as the Director of Operation and Safety in PT Transjakarta. And his expertise has brought him here with us, hopefully to discuss the vision of PT Transjakarta in building more adequate public transportation infrastructure for Jakarta. It's a big change after Transjakarta, indeed. Thank you for being here, Pak Yoga. And also next, I'm gonna call to the stage distinguished Ms. Isabel Chatterton, the Regional Industry Director for Global Infrastructure Asia Pacific International Finance Corporation, or IFC. Please give a big round of applause for the lady here. Isabel is the Regional Industry Director, Infrastructure and Natural Resources Asia and Pacific, based in Singapore. So you flew in the morning, I believe. Welcome to Jakarta. This is not the first one, I believe. All right, so welcome. I hope you enjoy us, and thank you for joining this discussion as well. So for 7 years prior to her current role, ladies and gentlemen, Isabel was the Regional Manager for the Public-Private Partnership Transaction Advisory Services, initially for South Asia, based in Delhi, and subsequently in Singapore, as her mandate expanded to cover all Asia Pacific for the last 4 years. And Isabel spent 4 years in IFC's subnational finance unit, where she worked in deal origination, structuring and supervisioning of debt and structured finance products in more than 6 countries in the Latin American continent. Is that right? All right, well done. So thank you for being here, Isabel. And before joining IFC, Isabel held various positions in World Bank operations in the urban sector in the Middle East and North Africa region, the water sector in Latin America, and the transport, power, and urban sector in South Asia. That's quite long, but that's all right. Okay, now I'm gonna call the last panelists for joining us as well here on the stage. Mrs. Sylvie Gunny, the Director of Financing and Investment of PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure, or PT SME. Silakan Ibu, please join us on the stage. Please give the big round of applause as well, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. So Ibu Sylvie was appointed as the Director of PT SME since March 23rd, 2020, pursuant to the Minister of Finance Decree number 126 KMK .06/2020 as Financing and Investment Director. She is responsible for managing the company's fund and investments and monitoring facilities, as well as administrative and custodial activities. Previously, she served as Head of Resources, Energy and Infrastructure at Australian and New Zealand Banking Group, or ANZ Bank, from 2015 to 2020. Director of Natural Resources Group Indonesia at Australian and New Zealand Banking Group, or NZ, from 2013 to 2015. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this afternoon. So allow me to sit down and start this discussion. So we're talking about green investment, and City is the catalyst for green investment, and we know that the central government already has planned for the green growth as well as green investment for the country. But we want to hear first, to open this session, how is the plan from the government side? Therefore, I would like to check whether Ms. Winnie already joins us this afternoon. Ibu Winnie, are you here with us?
Yes.
There she is. Ibu,
Good
selamat
afternoon,
sore.
everyone.
Good afternoon. All right,
Selamat
Ibu.
sore, selamat sore, Bapak Ibu.
Yeah, selamat sore. So I'd like to start this discussion by putting our attention to what the government, central government, plans are for the green investment here in the country. So the screen is yours, and the time is about 10 minutes, Ibu. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ibu. And I would like to mention that green economy is as a part of the Indonesia's economic transformation strategy. And this is very important to escape the middle income trap before 2045. So if I could go to slide number 4. Can someone help me to change the slide to number 4? This is the one that I would like to mention to all of you. that actually Indonesia requires economic transformation to accelerate the economic growth, but at the same time also we would like to balance between social, economic, and environmental aspect. And again, green economy will be the key for Indonesian economic transformation strategy, and therefore we can have a more sustainable economic growth in the future. Again, in the next slide, next slide please. And this is the benefit that Indonesia will gain when green economy is implemented. The green economy will be one of the new sources for Indonesian future economic growth, and we are projected that when we really implement green economy in the future, then the average of Indonesian GDP growth could be around 6.1 to 6.5%. As you know that before the COVID-19 pandemic, that the average of Indonesian economic growth is only about 5% on average for more than 5 years before the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, when we are really implementing green economy, then we also will improve the competitiveness of our economy, because the future demand is everything is about green. Then the other concern is that the consumers now, especially in the global consumers and global markets, really need green products. So Indonesia needs to start to implement green economy in every single aspect of our economic activities. Start from now. If not, Indonesia will be left behind. The other aspect that which is important as well, that green economy will create green jobs, and we also at the same time will also be reaching the net zero emissions by 2060 or sooner. And the thing is that again, we will save the lives, and we also will be able to balance between high economic growth and also environmental aspects as well. Next slide, please. And next slide again after this. One of the things that Indonesia already have a really strong policy and target on low carbon development, and this low carbon development is already been mainstream in our medium-term development plan for the period of 2020 to 2024. And we have some key performance indicators, and one of them is that in regard to green industry development, that we have a target that 10% of medium-large industrial company need to get certification on green industry standard. And the other one is that waste management and circular economy. We are expecting that 69.8 million ton amount of waste is really managed by applying the concept of circular economy. And also there will be like any other new scheme of waste management will be implemented as well in Indonesia. So again, next slide, please. And I think we go to slide number 10, if you don't mind. Next one. Unfortunately, that green investment in Indonesia is still relatively small compared to neighboring countries. The thing is that if we rely on government budget on the implementation of green economy, then that will not be enough. Green economy need a lot of partnerships from every stakeholders, not only government stakeholders, but also from non-government stakeholders. So meaning that collaboration among private sectors, government, academicians, and also people and the community will be very important for the success of implementation green economy in Indonesia. And one of the challenges as well is regarding to financing for green economy. And we have a lot of actually potential green projects, and but only some of them are really have financing. And the other one is that if you go to next slide. But on the government side, we have some priority actions to increase investment in Indonesia Green Growth Program. Green growth require new technologies for sure, and effective government policies to protect the environment. But at the same time, we also really would like to push the Indonesian economic growth. And the thing is that the other key actors for implementing the green economy is private sectors. So we have to really engage with private sectors to really implement green businesses. But at the same time, we also really need to provide green financing in order the businesses can go towards a greener activities. Next slide. This is the achievement of low carbon development in DKI Jakarta province, and the implementation low carbon development in DKI Jakarta is about 28,477 ton CO2 equivalent, and the value of potential emission reduction that
Ibu Winnie, I think you are a bit, your connection is not very good. Are you still here with us? Right. Ibu Winnie, I think we lost the connection with Ibu Winnie. All right, once again, thank you very much for the presentation. It was under 10 minutes, but we got... Hello, Ibu, are you here?
Of the implementation of the T1 low carbon. Number 13, please.
Okay, Ibu, your voice is a bit breaking here. Okay, let's have a try again.
My voice now?
Yes, let's have a try again, all right? You have about 2 minutes left, Ibu, though.
Yes, can you please see?
All right, I think unfortunately the connection is not very good, so we're just going to continue with our next speakers. Thank you very much.
Can you please go to slide number 13?
All right, we'll come back to you, Buwini. We'll come back to you. Thank you very much for the presentation of the materials.
All right, then. Just one more, one more thing, Ibu. Just would like to say on my last remark that promoting an investment climate and ecosystem is really need private involvement, especially for having a just transition towards a green and low carbon economy. I'll stop there, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Please give a big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. It was not very smooth in the end, but we got the idea, and the powerful message is that we need the partnership and collaboration with the private sectors, because the state budget would not be enough for the green economy in Indonesia to be running. And as mentioned as well, that this is actually quite beneficial for Indonesia, as if we can boost the green economy, then the competitiveness can actually get higher as well here. All right, so that's the message from Ibu Winnie. Now we want to know how challenging it is from the perspective of Pak Luki here. Pak Luki, could you enlighten us on how do you think the situation in Indonesia from your perspective, so that we can actually make sure that the investments are coming in and it's quite appealing for them? Go ahead. Your time is also 10 minutes. You may take the podium.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Mbak Alia. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Of course, colleagues, speakers. Let me continue with, I'm from Ministry of Finance, Government of Indonesia. So I perhaps for this session, I would like to share with you about what we are going to discuss today. The topic is about, I think, 3 keywords here. The first is collaboration, in this case between public and private. And the second keyword is how to build these livable cities. In this case, it is translated into what's so-called green, perhaps, SDG, ESG principles, things like that. And the third keyword is, of course, we're talking about the financing. So it's always like 2 sides of coin. We want to build something, but I will show you later that, of course, it's not. It turns out it's not that cheap to, let's say, to build, to develop, or to pursue this green development. So in this case, financing becomes also key for us to be able to achieve our goals. Let's say to have this green economy. So please go to the next slide. This is to give you some background. This is international level. So this is even before pandemic. That if you look, this is based on our RPJM, National Medium-Term Development Plan, 2020 to 2024. So infrastructure is very, very important for us. Indonesia is the largest archipelago in the world. Connectivity is very, very important for us. And from our calculation, our estimate, as you can see here, that we need as much as almost $441 billion US, okay, to fulfill this infrastructure gap. In the past, right, almost all infrastructure were being developed by using government budget. And we know, right, with this huge needs like this, government cannot bear all the costs. So we need to invite private investors here. We need the participation. Okay, so this is, as you can see here, that perhaps, look, government budget can only contribute, can only build maybe around 37%. Okay, we will utilize our SOE, state-owned enterprises, not that much, maybe only 21%. The rest coming from where? Private investors. So the challenge now, the question for all of us now is how to invite, how to interact, how to attract, how to convince private investors to put their money to invest in Indonesia, especially to support our infrastructure development. So that's why, as you can see here, that how to attract private sector investment, we need to come up with these innovative financing instruments, how to improve access to global finance. Of course, we are from government also might be able to provide some incentives, some facilities, some support. Next slide. So let's turn to this green plan, or this green, how to develop this green economy. Indonesia has ratified Paris Agreement in 2016. And then later on, we also have submitted our what's so-called national determined contribution. Basically, this is our commitment. Okay, the commitment is very simple, right? That we want to reduce our greenhouse emission, right, by 2030, 29% by our own effort, 41% with the support from international support. So we have also formulated the plan, the roadmap. So as you can see, there are 5 larger sectors. The 2 largest sectors coming from in forestry and also transportation, energy and transportation. So the point here is that, look, we have already made the very good plan, very detailed plan how to achieve this NDC. But look at the bottom. We also have to calculate what is the cost to achieve this NDC. So from our estimate, from our calculation, it needs almost 250 billion US dollar in 10 years, 2020 to 2030. To achieve this NDC, to achieve this green economy. And again, I have to emphasize this, government cannot bear all the costs. The financing gap here, again, this is our estimate, our estimation here, 148 billion to 260 billion US dollar. So this is the fact, this is the picture. Next. We go even further. Indonesia also has put commitment to achieve what's so-called net zero emission by 2060 or early. Okay? This is very ambitious target. And again, it's not easy and it's not that cheap. So that's why we have to come up, as I said, that this is important for us to think about how to finance this. Now we're talking about what's so-called innovative creative financing. We cannot only rely on just some traditional conventional financing scheme. Next. So government at this, we at the central government, we have come up with some initiative. This is what's so-called ongoing initiative. How to promote, how to find, how to, new ideas. This is creative financing to support the NDC achievement. So the first is what's so-called public-private partnership. Again, I will talk about in more detail later. And also, we come up with the idea of the thinking of what's so-called blended finance. And then we also introduce what's so-called thematic bond. Thematic, it can be green bond, it can be blue bond, it can be SDG, ESG bonds. And also, we introduce, my colleague here from PTSMI, Bu Sylvie, we also have development a new platform, what's so-called SDG Indonesia 1. Next, so PPP, again, this is, for us, is a journey. That is not that easy. It takes some time for us to develop this new scheme of PPP. We're talking about credibility. Investor, they will invest their money in Indonesia. We're talking about long-term investment, right? So they have to be confident. They have to trust about, the overall Indonesia economy, macroeconomy, for example, right? So this public-private partnership, we have what's so-called 4 pillars, we call it. So first, regulatory framework. So investors need to have, or they ask for legal certainty. So that's why it's very important for us to develop very robust, very solid regulatory framework. Okay? And number 2, again, is fiscal government support. What kind of incentive, what kind of facilities? Okay, so now in our program, we have, or we offer some incentive, some support. What's so-called, for example, for project preparation, we have PDF, project development facilities. We have what's so-called this construction subsidy. We call it Viability Gap Fund or VGF and so forth. Number 3, we're talking about insurance arrangement. Who will execute this? Sometimes government is, they think they might be right? We are not that quick. We are not that flexible. So that's why we established what's called special mission vehicles. We created like PTSMI. We created investor need guarantee. So we establish new guarantee company. It's called IIGF to provide guarantee for investors. Number 4, again, this is sector focuses. There are so many things in our, in our agenda. We have so many very long shopping lists, but I think it's better for us to focus on some very important key area, key sectors. This is our sector for PPP. And as you can see here, we started this PPP scheme actually back in 2005. And next slide, please. This is what I think is very encouraging here, that as you can see here, that look, so far we have 29 projects have been signed off. There are another 21 is in pipeline. 13 projects already in operation, 10 in construction, 6 in commercial close. And in terms of sectors, as you can see as well, look, roads, toll roads. I think that's the largest sector for now. But we also invest, or this PPP scheme also apply for water sectors, energy sectors, information communication technology. If you know about this Palaparing, that was developed under this PPP scheme. So the bottom line here, that PPP scheme is, for Indonesia case, is tested, is proven, it works. Next, blended finance. So again, this is another breakthrough for us actually in government. Because in the past, that one project, the financing only coming from one source of financing. This is very conventional, very traditional. Hey, look, I think this project can be or should be financed by using different sources of financing. So in this case, risk can be shared. We can be more effective, we can be more efficient. So that's what we do. So we started to design a project and welcome different financing schemes, source of financing. For example, the project of, next slide please. The railway in Makassar Parepare. So some segment is built, right, by using PPP scheme. Some other is built through APBN or budget through instrument Sukuk project. Sukuk project, basically this is government bond with Sharia principles.
Pak Luki, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your time is up actually, so maybe you can conclude your presentation.
SD Indonesia one, next, let me give me 2 minutes. SD Indonesia one, again, perhaps my colleague from PTSMI can share with you, but SD Indonesia one, thematic bond. Next slide, please. So, thematic bond, government of Indonesia, we are able to issue the first in the world green sukuk, global green sukuk, since 2018. And so far, we are able to mobilize to issue $5 billion global green sukuk. We went even further. We also issued what's so-called green sukuk retail, which is intended, right, is designed for our retail investor that have some concern about this green development agenda. We also issued what's so-called SDG bond. Our debut last year, we issued 500 million euro SDG bond. Okay, next, again, justice in pipeline. Next. So to achieve this net zero emission, so we're going to implement ESG principle for various government support. We're going to establish this carbon market mechanism, including carbon tax instrument, and last but not least is energy transition mechanism. Okay, perhaps go to the last slide, slide 15. So perhaps this is the key messages or recommendation. Okay. So first, I'll have to emphasize again that government, both in central level, in regional level, local government level, we have some what's so-called budget constraint. The need is so huge, we have limited capacity. So the solution here, again, we need to attract how to invite private investor to participate. And number two, so we have to be creative. We have to be innovative. Okay? Try to think new instrument, new scheme. Okay? Again, otherwise, again, it won't be sufficient. Number three, that as I said, so for example, Government of Indonesia, Ministry of Finance, we have come up with some, new instrument, new scheme. Again, perhaps local government like city of Jakarta can, rather than finding new wheel, right? So you can copy, you can look what we are doing, and then we can discuss. Just before the session, I have a discussion with Bu Haryati. So again, we welcome any kind of collaboration, support for our colleague in local government. But last but not least, this is very important as well, that again, very often we have to be very quick, right? That everything, so that's why having the right, knowledgeable, reputable partners is also important in the sense that it can accelerate, it can expedite the process rather than, reinventing the wheel from the beginning. Okay, I will stop right here. Sorry for again, I'll be happy to, if you have any question, any comment, and for discuss, for Q&A session later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Luki. Please give a big round of applause. Perhaps we need one semester to learn about that, Pak. That the time is very limited, I understand. But we got the idea that we need to collaborate, and the time is now. And also, we have to be creative, as you mentioned. The old way of doing the financial scheme will not be appealing enough for investors in this type of green financing, since Indonesia is very, very aggressive in setting the NDC of 29% on its own and 41% with the international help. But hopefully, this can be an opener and also giving out ideas as well for everyone in the business sectors to start thinking about the green investment for the country and for the city. Thank you once again, Pak Luki. And now we want to see the showcase of the projects that are developing now under the Jakarta government as well, and also probably if there are any opportunities or anything regards to green investments that can be collaborated in the future, as in the public and private collaboration. So I'm going to give the stage right now to Pak Yoga from Transjakarta.
Thank you, Emma. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yoga from Transjakarta. I'm speaking on behalf of the CEO who couldn't make it this afternoon. So we heard from the previous two speakers about the policy and also on green investment, as well as the financing instrument are available from Pak Luki's presentation. And this is basically the real project that we offer from Jakarta government, through Transjakarta. Next slide, please. Just to explain a bit before we go into the project, who we are. So Transjakarta is a city state-owned company. We are 100% owned by the regional province of Jakarta. We own more than 4,300 units. It is expected to be growing in the next sort of 8 years. We're still running 188 routes because of the still ramp up on the pandemic. But pre-pandemic era, we run more than 250 routes overall. So just to see here that we, I mean, if you know, Transjakarta equals the busways in the past, but we actually now operate not only the sort of big bus. So the 4,300 units here consist of different kind of type of vehicles. So from the the 80-meter bus articulated all the way to the like a micro buses, and we just run the latest 30 EV buses. So now we're actually shifting to electric vehicles. Which is basically what the project is about. Next slide, please. So the reason why we go into electric is because we we basically part of the government of Jakarta, which has the net zero target, net zero emission target by 2050. Sorry, go back to the previous slide, please. Yeah. So the Jakarta government back in 2019, represented by the Pak Anies Baswedan, made a commitment with the C40 initiatives that it's called the Fossil Fuel Free Streets initiative that commit to two things. So first is that the city of Jakarta commit that to only procure zero emission buses from 2025 onwards, and also ensuring the most area of Jakarta city are emission free by 2030. So our goal is to make sure that initiative, is basically followed. So what we did is that we create a roadmap. Next, please. Next, please. Yes. So we create a roadmap to make sure by 2030, 100% of electric, vehicles in Transjakarta are using electric. And this is, you can say this is an ambitious goal, but this is basically for us a roadmap that we have to follow. We have created also a strategy, that we will electrify this kind of buses, from 2022 to 2030. So we've started this year, started with the 30 buses. By the end of this year, we will fulfill all of this in the pilot project for 100 buses, thanks to also C40 initiatives that help us in getting the pilot project up and running. But next year and then the following year, we will basically add more buses, but also replace the ICE buses. That so make sure that the first milestone is 50% of the bus, which is basically 3,000 buses, should be electric by 2025, and then 10,000 buses by 2030, all to be electric. Now, next slide, please. So just to give you a bit of, is this easy? Definitely not. The reason is because, not because of the technology, it's because of the financing challenges. So the new vehicle of the electric costs twice as the ICE buses. And this is basically the upfront cost. I mean, with the contract of the electric vehicles, like the electric vehicles actually, did a lot of good things, especially also all the lifetime. Like for example, the diesel buses can up to maybe 10 years, but these electric vehicles can go up to 15 to even 20 years because of the less part required and everything. But the upfront cost, which is the battery, that's actually really expensive right now. So with this high upfront cost, the electric, can you go to the next slide, please? So the challenges is that the new electric fleet procurement, because Transjakarta, we don't run the buses alone. We actually run the buses with 18 bus operators. So when you say bus operators, it's not just like, the whole big bus operators, with the fancy money and everything. It's more like many of these bus operators are cooperatives, like individual owners. So if we ask them to buy the vehicles, cost 1 billion rupiah, that is, very challenging for them. So we need to find a strategy, with this kind of PPP mechanism to make sure that the financing is available for us to tap, we can secure some financing, we can tap in some financing, sustainable financing, if possible, to make sure that this can be channeled to this operator. So that's why the limited capital capacity of the existing bus operators is something that we need to overcome to make sure that the goal of making 10,000 buses by 2030 is achieved. So we have some opportunities that this direct investment for bus operators, even the through the lender or asset lessor or even PPP. So that's why we are currently we are exploring the options. One of them is also through the PTSMI. How can they also finance this through a PPP project finance mechanism? Next. Now, the other opportunity, in addition to this fleet procurement, is the charging facility, which is integrated. So we don't want the charging facility only located at the depot, because we need some of the charging located at the bus terminal. So we have created a plan that currently is 12, in addition to the depot, that's maybe 25 depot. So we already have also mapping 12 possible locations for charging station located at the bus terminals. So this is also, an investment required, it's also huge, and it can be also combined with the, like commercial areas like shopping malls, offices, and everything like that. So if you need more information about this, you can go to our booth next door. Next. So just to give you an idea how much money that we're talking here, this is just a projection on how the annual investment of fleet and charging infrastructure on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. Just to see the yellow line, which is basically the gradual investment that require. But next slide, please. But the total investment that we require over the next 8 years is about $2.4 billion US, which require 2.1 billion for the fleet for procurement alone, because 10,000 buses require a lot of money. So we estimated at least $2.1 billion of investment will be required to replace, or even like we also put the plan to retrofit or convert from diesel bus to electric. The depot, on the depot charging infrastructure, not so much. We estimated about 285 million US. So and also some of the terminal charging infrastructure, excluding the the infrastructure for commercials and everything. So, but the big cake, or the big piece, is actually at the new fleet procurement. So that is why here, this is basically a project, a real project that we need. The challenge, the challenge is real. The project is real. The goal is also clear. So we basically, through this forum, we encourage all the potential investors to start looking at public transport industry, looking at Transjakarta, how we can work together to make it the goal of net zero by 2050 for Jakarta City is achieved. So thank you so much. Thanks also for GIF, Jakarta Investment Forum, to invite Transjakarta in this prestigious forum. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Yoga. So it is indeed quite needing a big budget as well to shift from diesel to electricity, but the plan is already there. So hopefully this is also quite, an idea for the investors to see what's there for them as well. All right, now without further ado, I would like to give the opportunity to Ms. Isabel. I know that you need to go somewhere after this, so please, the time is yours. 10 minutes is the time, Ms. Isabel.
Thank you. So delighted to be here today, and thank you to Ibu Amalia and Pak Loki and Pak Yoga for setting the context so well. If I could have the slides presented, please. Can I have the slides?
All right, where's the slide for Ibu Isabel, if the committee could help?
In the meantime, I'll start letting you know what I was intending to focus on, but given the excellent context. So I wanted to talk about sustainability and ESG, just to set the context of how we, as financiers and investors, see that space. Second, the challenges that we've seen in emerging markets for green financing. And third, I wanted to focus primarily on Jakarta's opportunity as a green investment hub. For those of you who don't know IFC, we're the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. We have invested over $321 billion since we were founded in 1956. Of that, we've invested $2.3 billion on subnational financing. That's financing that we provide to subnational governments directly without the need for sovereign guarantee. That means that that financing does not actually take any of the headroom that is available by the sovereign, in this case the government of Indonesia, to increase its sovereign debt. So if I could please ask to move on to slide number 4. So our mission, as I just mentioned. Next slide, please. So IFC, if I could point out to the fact that we have indeed been growing. We had a capital increase recently. That means that we have a lot more capital available today to support subnationals with their financing needs. Next slide. Many of you may not be aware that today 130 banks and financial institutions have adopted the Equator Principles. The Equator Principles were actually based on IFC performance standards. If there's two messages that I would like to leave with you from that slide, is that please make sure that you get the IFC ESG guide. It is really a primer. For those of you who are not able to find the guide online, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be very happy to send you that guide. But basically, next slide please. Basically, the main point I wanted to make is that companies around the world today recognize that proper sustainability and ESG management is key for a long-term company's profitability and viability. Basically, it makes good business sense. Good ESG practices not only help manage risks better, but also it helps communities and it helps the environment. And as Ibu Amalia mentioned, the social fabric. It makes sure that development is inclusive. It also helps companies boost reputation and reduce costs. But besides that, the fact is that several studies show a direct link between ESG practices and financial returns. In IFC, back in 2018, while we were reviewing 656 companies in our portfolio, we at IFC found that companies with good environmental and social performance tended to outperform those companies with poor performance, but about 210 basis points. And those companies equally had an increased return on equity that was at least 110 basis points higher on their assets. I also wanted to mention, next slide please, IFC has been, of course, a leader in this evolving ESG landscape for decades. We not only pioneered the early ESG adoption, as we mentioned, the concept of ENS safeguards, but also we developed industry-recognized concepts, and together we put a lot of attention to ESG today, not only because of the fact that it makes good business sense, but also because of its impact and the returns on profitability. Next slide, please. Of course, it's not so easy for us to work with clients who are inexperienced in the space of ESG. We have a very long list of ESG upstream products that we can bring to our clients. And as the screen shows, there is quite a range. But I wanted to make the following point with regards to the identification of challenges with regards to green investment in emerging markets. It is true that the private sector, as the previous speaker mentioned, can provide innovation for subnationals and for cities like Jakarta to finance the growing infrastructure. There are many opportunities in terms of green bonds, PPP, public-private partnerships, as already mentioned, sustainability-linked financing, property-linked finance, etc., etc. But there are several challenges for green financing in developing countries, and I'm going to list a few. Our products will help our clients address some of these challenges. So the challenges that we see very common are the absence of a single definition of green finance, very often accompanied by the lack of standards, insufficient correlation of targets of sustainable growth with priorities in the national government, but of course, as Pak Loki mentioned, Indonesia is quite advanced in that space. Absence of regulatory and legal framework for green finance. There's sometimes a maturity mismatch. There's poor green project selection, an information asymmetry in the capital markets, and finally, the lack of analytical tools and expertise to identify and assess green projects. Next slide, please. So I wanted to mention that we are uniquely positioned to help mayors and municipal leaders in addressing the complex and growing needs of cities. And we would be delighted to have a conversation, of course, not only with Jakarta, but with others as well. IFC, as I've already mentioned, one of the largest financiers of climate smart projects in developing countries. Since 2005, we have started to track our climate smart components of all of our investments and all of our advisory work. And we have provided more than $28 billion worth of long-term financing. We have raised more than $22.3 billion in core mobilization through partnerships. So we do this with others, and as a matter of fact, we are joint partners with PTSMI in IF. So the next slide, please, will show that with this leadership role comes a lot of responsibility for us. IFC was one of the earliest issuers of green bonds, launching a green bond program back in 2010 to help catalyze the market and to unlock investments for private sector projects in renewable energy and in energy efficiency. As of June of last year, we had issued more than $10 billion worth of green bonds across 20 different currencies and targeting more than 178 countries. So we come with a lot of expertise in that space. In addition, I wanted to point out that we do believe that as a development finance institution, we need to play a leadership role in developing guidelines and procedures for the green bond market. And as a member of the Green Bond Principles Executive Committee and the IFI Handbook, I would strongly recommend that you look at the harmonized framework for impact reporting that IFC has been leading as well. Next slide. So to finalize, our value goes much more beyond financing. It goes into strategic support to our clients at the subnational level and also transaction support to our clients. And our value added can be seen on the screen. So let's go to the next part of the conversation today. Next slide, please. So I would like to focus on Jakarta. So exploring Jakarta's potential to become a national hub for green investment initiatives. And as of course we've already looked at PAG Yoga, the very interesting exploration with regards to electric vehicles or an EV charging infrastructure. I wanted to leave you with three key messages. So the first one is the financial strength of Jakarta, with a revenue of more than $4.5 billion last year, needs to be leveraged by accessing commercial and hopefully commercial and green financing. That's the first message that I would like to leave with you. Second, we know that cities like Jakarta face multiple challenges. We know that COVID-19 has further exacerbated the challenges that Jakarta faces. Jakarta is also facing serious urban and environmental problems. And we know the situation across the board, but we do think that there is a historic opportunity for Jakarta today to build back better. Therefore, I wanted to make the last and final point. Based on IFC's Green Reboot, again, it's a document available in our website. I'm happy to share it with all of you. We estimate that between now and 2030, in 21 emerging markets, including 6 in Asia, if the cities like Jakarta prioritize climate investment growth in the recovery plans, they stand to attract as much as $7 trillion worth of investments. The $7 trillion worth of investments could create over 144 million jobs by 2030. So it is critical that cities like Jakarta close the financing gap and that they don't do this alone. Next slide, please. We see several investment opportunities for Jakarta, but I would like to zoom on 3 of them. So of the 7, we see opportunities in water and sanitation, we see opportunities in transport, we see opportunities in green building, and of course, in other areas such as solid waste management, renewable energy, urban development, etc. But let me speak only about these 3, water, transport, and green building. In the specific case of water, there's a $3 billion investment required today. We think that the citizens of Jakarta will need this to improve the water and the wastewater services by 2030. So there's an incredible opportunity to be seized. Next slide. On transport, we think that there's about 600 million worth of public transport and also about 7 billion worth of electric vehicles investment required by 2030 for the city to achieve its investment plans in a way that is sustainable. And finally, with regards to green buildings, I wanted to point out that IFC has been working with Jakarta since 2013. And in that exercise, next slide, please, on green buildings, we have estimated that Jakarta could contribute to green efficiency measures across the board, including investments in green buildings amounting to about $16 billion by 2030. So overall, I think the message that I wanted to leave you with today is that the investment opportunity within a prudent and responsible subnational borrowing framework, it's a historic opportunity for Jakarta today. We have been fortunate to have supported many such cities globally for the last 2 decades. We have been supporting them with all sorts of financing, including anchoring municipal bonds, whereby we support the municipality from beginning to end, to stitch it all together, all the due diligence to make sure that those issuances are well placed, gather a lot of interest in the market, and have, of course, the branding of IFC attached to them. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you for being invited today, and look forward to having further conversation today with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Isabel, for a very, very insightful presentation. Do you really have to leave now? No, okay. Oh, thank you. Thank God. All right, so it's good to have a perspective from your point of view on how a developing country like Indonesia, and specifically like Jakarta, we have the opportunity, as long as we address the climate change challenges and also the issues that are being talked about globally right now. And it is good as well that you mentioned that Jakarta has a big potential in that. So let's put the attention on that from now until we reach all those targets. Thank you once again, Isabel. And now to speak for the last session here, I'm going to invite Ibu Sylvie from PT SME. So PT SMI has been like a lending as well, also bridging the government with the investors, and we want to know the learnings as well on how to have investments, especially in terms of green investments to Jakarta City. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sylvie. I'm the Director of Financing and Investment of PTSMI. So in this session, I'd like to share with you SMI experience, initiative, and resources that we have to support the green project in Indonesia. So, but before I start, I'd like to make a quick introduction on about PTSMI for those who are not familiar with PTSMI. Next, please. So PTSMI is a non-bank financial institution for infrastructure financing established in 2009. So we are wholly owned by the government of Indonesia through Ministry of Finance. We carry the mandate to be a catalyst for the infrastructure development in Indonesia. And to carry the mandate, we are equipped with the business pillars or business activities that span from the financing as well as the equity investment into the infrastructure project. And we also have the advisory services for the private sector, advisory services for the public sectors, which actually help project to in the project preparation or project development, particularly on the PPP projects. Next, please. These are the example of our partners in supporting the sustainable projects and as well as the green projects. Next. As part of our commitment to support the green investment and green project in Indonesia, we established some initiative. One of them that since 2016, we established a special division for sustainable finance division that will focus on the financing of renewable energy in Indonesia. SMI is also the first accredited entity in Southeast Asia from the Great Climate Fund. We also cooperate and collaborate with the French Development Bank, AFD, to provide the de-risking instrument or financing and quasi-equity for the green projects. We issued the green bond in 2018 to support the green projects. We also managed the 3.1 trillion rupiah Indonesia, the geothermal fund from the government for supporting the geothermal exploration in Indonesia. And we also have a grant agreement with the World Bank to support the exploration of geothermal to the public sector or as well as the private sector. We have implemented as well the environmental and safety management framework to all the business activity in SMI. And we are appointed by the government as the platform to manage the sustainable Indonesia 1 or SIO. Next. These are just the framework that we have. We implemented very thorough environmental and social safeguard to all the business activity that we have, particularly on the financing and as well as the equity investment. Next. Next. So in 2018, SMI issued a green bond. This is the first corporate green bond that comply with the OJK regulation number 60. So just after OJK released regulation for the green bond in 2017, in 2018, SMI issued the green bond. The issuance is about 500 billion, which the use of proceeds 100% only to support the green project. Next. So it took about 6 to 7 months for the green bond issuance from the plan until the bonds is actually listed in the IDX. And unlike the regular bond, the green bond issuance requires some additional process and also cost. So there are some additional requirement for the green bond, including to establish the green bond framework and also have the second party opinion for the framework itself. It took about 3 to 4 months for SMI at that time to establish this framework and as well as to have the second party opinion. PT SMI received the technical assistance from the World Bank from the issuance process until the reporting. So we can succeed with the green bond issuance in 2018. This is the first issuance, but we plan to have another thematic or green bond issuance, whether this is green bond or sustainable, to support the sustainable project and green project in Indonesia next years. Next. So as mentioned before, that before we issue the bonds, we need to establish the green bond framework. This is to provide the transparency and also disclosure to the investor and stakeholders of how we use the proceeds and how we actually manage the proceeds. The framework consists of some 4 pillars, including the use of proceeds that can only be used for the project that has a clear environmental benefits and as well as contribute to the low carbon. The second pillar is actually process for project evaluation and selection. The project has to be evaluated based on the financial viability and also has the low or minimum environmental and social risks. The management of proceeds is the third pillar, that 100% of the proceeds will be used to finance the eligible project. It can be used for financing the new project as well as the refinancing the already established project. The pillar number 4 is actually the reporting. We are required to publish a green bond impact report on annual basis to enable the investor actually to look at and also to observe what the progress of the project and implementation of the green bond program. Next. So based on the OJK regulation number 51, we have established every year the sustainability report. We also established the sustainable action plan. And as mentioned before, that we issue every year the green bond report. Next. The green bond that we issue comply with the international standard and also the OJK standard. And also, it has to meet the SMI mandate to support and to finance the infrastructure sector. So there are 6 eligible projects for green bond with the SMI, which actually consists of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and other project climate-related project. Next. The second opinion report is actually to opine the framework that we established. I think this is something is also stipulated in the OJK regulation that need to have the second opinion report for the green bond. We actually work with the Cicero, which actually granted the medium green for bonds of PTSMI. The Cicero confirmed that the framework complies with the provisions stipulated in the international standard and also the OJK standard. Next. These are allocation of proceeds. As mentioned before, that the proceeds can only be used 100% for the green project. So the proceeds has been utilized to support the 2 mini hydro and the LRT Jabodetabek. Next. These are the example of the green bond report that we publish every year on the website. One of the things that has to be reporting is actually how the carbon reduction impact from the project that we finance from this green bonds issuance. As you look at the report, we have to measure how much the carbon reduction of this green project. Next. SMI is also, as Pak Luki mentioned before, as SDG Indonesia 1, was appointed by the government as a platform whereby all the parties or stakeholders who has the same interest to support the sustainable development gathered into one platform. So the platform itself has a support that consists of the development facilities, the tools that can be mobilized by reducing the risk profile of the project. We provide the project preparation and environmental safeguard. The other things that this platform can support is actually the risking facility. This is to reduce the risk profile of the financial risk of the project itself, such as the credit enhancement and other innovative product that can actually lower the risk of the project itself. And financing facility, providing the concessional loan for the facility, and also the equity or investment to the facility. On the right-hand side, so if you look at those are the stakeholders and parties consists of the banks, commercial banks, development banks, multilaterals, philanthropies, to actually gathering into this platform. Next. So the business model for SDG Indonesia 1, PTSMI then will manage this funding provided by the donors. The commitment of this fund can only be effective when there is an underlying program to be collaborated or to be financed.
So, I'm sorry, your time is actually up, so just try to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. So these are actually the result or the achievement of this SDG Indonesia 1. We have the 61 projects has been supported for the blended finance, including the project preparation, also financing the project. Next. These are one of the showcase of the project. This is the solar PV, Pertamina solar PV, where we utilize the fund or the donors to prepare the feasibility study for the project. Next. This is actually the interesting product that we utilized this, I think beginning of this year, the credit enhancement facility. With the credit enhancement facility, the issuer can improve the rating. This example is actually that we provide here. The Tamaris Hydro, which is issued the bonds beginning of this year, can have the 6-notch upgrade from the standalone A- into the AAA using the credit enhancement facility. I think the later pitch only a showcase among other projects that we have using this SIO or Sustainable Indonesia 1 platform. I'll stop here. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Warm applause, please, for Ibu Sylvie. Thank you that you took us and guided us of the green bond framework funded by PTSMI, and also it has been enacted and continued to increase the company's influence in the development projects related to SDGs as well. Hopefully this can also attract others, and you also mentioned about the credit enhancement facility and the example of the projects that are ongoing right now. So I just want to ask questions to all of you. Maybe I will start with Pak Luki. Pak Luki, so is there any special budget allocated for green investment actually from the central government? And if you could give a suggestion or an idea to a city like Jakarta for its development, also in terms of green investment, from the central government point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps for our budget, central government budget, APBN. So we have this initiative, I think back in 2016, we were assisted by a colleague from UNDP. So basically what we did is try to take all budget relevant related to climate action. So we call it climate budget tagging, we call it, okay? So basically we identified all budget that we use or are used for addressing this climate action basically. So by doing so, again, this is the kind of the first step. So at least we know about the contribution, because again, when we're talking about budget, there are so many ministries, line ministries. We have what's called Satker, right? And each of these units has its own initiative, program, project that to some extent perhaps also contributing to this, addressing this climate change or to address this climate problem. So again, that's what we did. And then later on, 2 years later, by having this, now we have what's called underlying or program project that can be used as underlying to issue this green bond. So again, this is very, very useful for us, that because this is green bond, we have to have what's called this underlying projects program to support this green paper. So that's what we did. So my point here is that, look, we might not, at least for APBN, for our government, central government budget, we have some programs here and there actually that is important for us to identify all those program projects. And then we can use that as a kind of asset, I would say, right? To kind of securitize, to monetize, to be used for our financing instruments. That's number one. Because again, in the past, we didn't think about this. We just, okay, each of ministries, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of perhaps this public works, even local government in Jakarta.
So it's not integrated.
It's not integrated. It's not coordinated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of very useful for us, because we have, I mean, unlike PTSMI, it's only one company, right? It's much more complicated, much more complex for us. Okay, to support this green development agenda, so we provide some kind of incentives as well. So tax holiday, tax. We also provide some kind of tax incentive. It's not specifically intended for kind of green investment, but at least for some areas, for some sectors, we provide some, for example, like geothermal. So we provide some incentive. So we also have a number of different schemes of this tax incentive. We have tax holiday, we have tax allowance, also tax release or tax exemption for export duty, for import duty, for example, things like that.
All right. So I just want to, this is a question if the Jakarta government faces, these green investments are usually mega projects, and the leaders in the regional stage level, there are sometimes not, how do I say it? It's not very capable, or sometimes are not very having the confidence in getting it. So what kind of assurance from the central government that from your point of view can give to the provincial government so that they can actually be more confident in getting these projects coming in?
So from our experience, these local leaders, they have so many ideas, very, very good ideas, okay? So we want to build, let's say, public transportation. We want to build this MRT, LRT. We want to build this waste management. We want to build this, this water sanitation, things like that, okay? So there are so many kind of shopping lists, okay? So the key here actually is in project preparation, how to develop what's so-called this very good feasibility study. So we want to sell the project, we want to attract these investors, including foreign investors. So we have to convince them. Again, as I said before, traditionally speaking, almost all infrastructure projects were financed by using this government budget, which is, when we did procurement, is much simpler, I would say.
All right.
Now we want to attract it for investors. We want to attract investors. So of course they will scrutinize in very detail. So what is the revenue stream? What's the risk? Things like that.
Right.
And you are right that very often, in many cases, that local government, this project owner, do not have
the
capacity.
The capacity, yeah.
To develop this very good, let's say, project proposal. So that's why government, Minister of Finance in this case, under this PPP scheme, we provide this assistance. We call it Project Development Facilities, PDF. So basically, local government can submit some kind of proposal, preliminary proposal, I would say, right? And then we can take a look together. And then if we approve that, if they get approval, we use PTSMI and also PT IIGF to undertake this, carry out this PDF, this project preparation.
Yeah.
So with their help, with their assistance, so we develop this project proposal, this feasibility study, and then of course it's ready to sell now.
All right.
And the assistance also goes along until the financial close.
Okay, so there's assistance from the central government.
And that is free, it's subsidized by government.
All right, okay.
The service.
Okay, thank you for enlightening us on that specific question. Now I want to go to Pak Yoga. So Pak Yoga, how do you think the public-private partnership can actually be the solutions for the green projects, especially here in Jakarta? And we want to project ourselves as, when we're not going to be the capital anymore, as the central hub for green investment city and global city as well.
Yeah, so I cannot speak on behalf of the government, but I can give the perspective from the Transjakarta as the city-owned company. So I think, you know, going back to the presentation that I made, like the investment required for us is really huge. Obviously, you know, if we then take all the money from the, you know, city government, for example, because we're also subsidized by the city government. Then, you know, all the city budget will just go to Transjakarta. So then no development whatsoever for other projects. So this is not fair. So I think this is really the solution for us. And with the initial, you know, upfront costs for the electric vehicles, for example, then this can bring, you know, a lot of fiscal sort of, you know, well, you know, like a fiscal room for other projects also to grow. Again, Jakarta as a city, you know, they have a lot of projects, you know, because the city has been, you know, around for 700 years, no, 423 years. Sorry,
That's
Busri,
right.
I think I a bit forget, but basically all the infrastructure required to modernize, you know, like the piping, sanitation, you know, waste management and everything are huge. You know, Pak Luki mentioned about the MRT, the LRT. So we want to be part of it, but we don't want to take the majority of it. So having the private sector through the PPP obviously is the solution. I think the challenges for us really, just before the session, Ibu Sri Haryati, the Assistant Secretary for Economic, also has the discussion with Pak Luki, like, you know, how, you know, we can sort of, you know, get this financing structure developed. I think that is the issue as well for Transjakarta. How we can make sure all the money, you know, available, all the investments available, we're able to capture it, and also to, you know, to channel it through us, and also to the, you know, to operators in our case. So I think really finding the good project, as Pak Luki mentioned, the project preparation is really, you know, important. We've been talking to some of the investors, and they're like, okay, you know, we know your numbers, but then how, you know, how are you going to structure our financing, you know, to you? So, you know, thanks to the project development facility, which I think we will also use, Pak Luki, if possible. We also been in touch with the IIGF as well, Pak Luki. So I think we will work together with the Ministry of Finance as well as the, you know, SMI and also IIGF to ensure that the PPP project for electrification in Transjakarta, you know, can be developed.
Thanks, Pak Yoga, for the perspective, talking on behalf of the company under Jakarta government. Now, I want to go to Ms. Isabel. So, Ms. Isabel, so what differs green investment from the conventional investment? And also, if you could give an idea on how the SMEs, because the SMEs in Indonesia, and also in some other countries as well, playing a big role in the economy and the recovery of the economy nowadays after the pandemic, can actually also take part in it.
So how differs green investment from traditional investment? So three main differences for companies and for investors. For companies, they can first of all crowd in financing that was otherwise not available to them, because of course there is higher public awareness with regards to sustainable and green financing. Second, they can tap into specific groups of money that are only available to green and sustainable investments. Increasingly, particularly in Asia Pacific, we're seeing a lot of capital being already tagged and labeled. And that capital cannot go for traditional financing. One such bag of money is the Climate Investment Fund. They have $8 billion worth of multi-donor financing to crowd in and accelerate climate investments in emerging markets. And the third advantage is, of course, the fact that if the financing receives a lot of attention and it's oversubscribed, potentially the financing cost could be slightly lower. We anchored the investment about 10 months ago of Singapore's energy company, Sembcorp. It was the first ever sustainability-linked financing that I've seen anchored globally, and the first sustainability-linked bond that the company issued, and it was oversubscribed, precisely because the market trusts the preparation, as you were mentioning, Pak Yoga, all the preparation work that we led, etc. For investors, I would say there are three main advantages as well. So first, it enables investors to put their money where their mouth is and get the benefits of having green and sustainable branding, in addition, of course, to the actual economic benefits that come from ESG investment. Second, the green investments are increasingly required to comply with higher transparency and reporting requirements. We, for example, as IFC, we have been working with the United Nations Sustainability Stock Exchange Program since 2018. We have worked with 15 stock exchanges across the world as of today, where we have enabled the regulator to establish more transparent disclosure and reporting requirements with regards to ESG. So that brings comfort and trust to the investors and to the market. And finally, as Pak Loki, you were saying, taxation could be an issue. Very often green investment instruments attract some tax exception, and that's something that investors like to see. So your second question was?
SMEs, the small, medium enterprises.
So in IFC, we can also work with financial intermediaries to support SMEs across a large spectrum of activities. In Indonesia, for example, in 2020, we actually invested about $200 million equivalent in a private placed gender and green bond issued by OCBC in Indonesia. The proceeds of the bond are going to be used by the bank to increase lending to women entrepreneurs and women-owned small and medium-sized companies. So that's one example of how we can support SMEs. A year earlier, in 2019, we provided a 4-year debt facility of about $150 million equivalent to PT Bank, PN, and the proceeds of that facility are going to be used for green financing, and they're going to be used to increase lending to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, focusing particularly in 2 areas, in financing the supply chain gap and also promoting women-led businesses. So overall, I think we can really bring our wide network that we have for green financing. We're actually IFC serves as the secretariat for the Sustainable Banking Framework. That framework actually brings together regulators and banking associations from 40 emerging markets. So we do have the ability to contribute to crowding to Indonesia 43 trillion worth of investment funds available. That's about 85% of total banking assets available in emerging markets today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Isabel, for the perspective on that. I would like to go to Bu Sylvie. So, Bu Sylvie, how is the regulations, you think, could actually make the green investment or green funding more attractive and accessible? Because there are many projects and they're hurdled by the regulations and policies in one country. So from your experiences, could you share with us?
Okay, so I'll be speaking on the perspective of lenders or financier. If you're talking about the green project, typically it is expensive and riskier. And so in order to have this sector is more attractive for the investors, because on the other hand, the government wants this, because this is related to the public services, to be affordable, so it has to be balanced.
Thank you, Ms. Isabel. We do wish that you have a very, very safe travel. Thank you for speaking with us today. Take care. All right, please continue with Sylvie.
Okay. To balance this, so the cost of financing has to be cheaper. At the moment, especially for the Indonesia, I don't see, or we don't have the incentive for the green project. So we can provide the more cheaper financing, the more cost of fund. So if we can only has the incentive for the government, for lenders or financier, for example, to have the lower capital charge, so they can have the lower cost of fund only for the green project, it can help so much.
All right, thanks for that. Just to wrap this discussion, I would like to hear the last remarks from each of our speaker today. Pak Luki, can I begin from you? On our topic, public and private partnership in green investment.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a very good session. So, however, what we need is concrete action. And concrete action needs kind of also collaboration from all stakeholders, or participation from all parties involved, relevant. So it's not only kind of responsibility of government, both, this central government, subnational government, but to achieve this green development agenda, it needs commitment, participation from all stakeholders, including us, right? Small contribution like, using this very kind of energy saving air conditioner, for example.
It's
right?
rather cold in here, it's true.
For our waste, right? How to so there are a lot of even small things that can be done by all of us. Yes, we're talking about mega project, but at the same time, in very, very micro level, there are a lot of things can be done.
So we have to put into our focus, even starting from small things, we can start building this towards the greenery or green economy in the future. Thank you for that. And also, I would like the last remarks from Pak Yoga.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Pak Luki's first remark, which is basically we need to start action. Right. We need help from you, Pak. The city of Jakarta, as well as the Transjakarta as the company, we have the project. We just need to make sure that some of the facility and also some of that are provided for free by the central government can be utilized for us. I think we definitely would appreciate if the national government, from the Ministry of Finance, from the SMI, from the IGF, can help us and make sure that, because we've been discussing this at least for another year now. We have the project already up and running, but we want to scale it up. And I think the PPP is really the way for us to go if we want to achieve the net zero emission by 2050 and 100% of Transjakarta EV by 2030. Thank you.
Thanks, Pak Yoga. So the time is now to act, and also hopefully by the help from the central government as well, we can do this. All right, Bu Sylvie, from you.
Okay, thank you. So I think the sustainable project or green project need to be continued developed. So regardless whether for financial we don't have yet the incentive from the regulator to support this, I think we at PTSMI will keep looking for and using all the resources that we have to be able to support this green project. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the commitment as well, Ibu Sylvie. And finally, that actually wraps up our discussion for today. I'd like to say thank you to all of our panelists. Please give a big round of applause. Thank you, Ibu Winnie. Unfortunately, she could not join us for these
Q&A, and also Pak Luki, Pak Yoga, Miss Isabel, she already left, and Ibu Sylvie, thank you one more time. And I'm gonna invite everybody to stand up for a photo opportunity. Please kindly stand up, and our media friends and our journalists, and as well as the photographers, let's use this opportunity to have a group picture here. Please. Okay, let's give a big smile. And perhaps one more time with a different pose, no? Okay, it's enough then. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of our thematic discussion. We've been talking about green investment. We'll be talking about Jakarta as a more livable and more inclusive and more sustainable in the future. And would like to thank you one more time for joining this event. And as a closing, let's give big applause to Jakarta Investment Forum. My name is Rahma Alia, and here is the closing video. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you.
Come to the end of Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. But this is just the beginning of our journey in realizing more green investment in Jakarta, fostering global collaboration for more sustainable and livable cities globally. Now, it is the right time to act. See you in the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
We have introduced some of our investment opportunities that will contribute to a better urban society. Let's be a part of the solution by investing with the future in mind. A better Jakarta start today. See you in the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On behalf of the Jakarta Capital City Government, I am Ahmad Riza Patria, Vice Governor of Jakarta. Convey our devout gratitude to all distinguished speakers, investor, business and investment entities for participating in Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. It's an honor for us to meet global leaders and change makers from the various sectors. I hope we can stand hand in hand in making our vision come true. Let's come and collaborate with us. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Forum. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Improving quality of public services is a monumental aspect of administrative and bureaucratic reforms, for it will contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Jakarta Investment and One-Stop Integrated Service Department, or better known as PTSP Jakarta, is a newly established government organization that started in 2015. PTSP Jakarta provides integrated solutions for managing investment, licensing and non-licensing in the capital city of Jakarta. Our service aims to focus on three main priorities to achieve zero delay, zero complaint, and 100% service excellence. we provide the citizens with an innovative multi-channel public service approach. To make PTSP's presence more accessible, our services are spread in 316 points. A 12-story building dedicated as a Jakarta Public Service Mall was built in 2017 to expand the function of one-stop integrated service. The mall integrates 19 public service units from private sector and government agencies of both Jakarta and central government into one place, becoming a comprehensive one-stop place providing 330 services. Prioritizing the use of information system and communication to accelerate our services. Managing customer inquiries with quick response, and providing reliable and suitable for working and public facilities. Committed in giving exceptional service, we hold onto values to provide solution through empathy, decisive, innovative, manners.
Solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Setia solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Pelayanan
Jakarta Capital City Government will stay committed to remain trustful and wholeheartedly dedicate our efforts to fulfill the basic needs and civil rights to every citizen through providing quality public services.
bagi warga ibu kota, kerja tanpa lelah, memberikan yang terbaik dengan inovasi tiada henti, multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani. Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ini.
We work with full dedication in order to realize our commitment as the licensing solution for Jakarta citizens.
Dengan inovasi tiada henti, multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani.
Come and grow with Jakarta, smart city, smart opportunities.
terus memberikan hanya yang terbaik, serta menghadirkan kesejahteraan bagi masyarakat Jakarta. Untuk menghadapi tantangan ekonomi global yang tak lagi terbatas, kami terus berinovasi agar kami selalu dapat beradaptasi pada perubahan di sekitar kami. Berbagai layanan kebutuhan pun telah kami hadirkan untuk melayani seluruh lapisan masyarakat, dan kami tidak pernah berhenti untuk selalu mengabdi. Diawali dengan berdirinya perusahaan tanah dan bangunan pada tahun 1969. Dengan terbitnya peraturan daerah Provinsi DKI Jakarta atas dasar kebutuhan akan properti yang memadai, fungsional, serta memiliki daya dukung pembangunan jangka panjang. Hingga perusahaan tanah dan bangunan terus berinovasi dan bertransformasi menjadi Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya. Kini kami semakin yakin untuk menjadi perusahaan yang selalu berinovasi dalam mempertahankan eksistensi di bidang pembangunan yang ada di Jakarta, serta terus berkomitmen menjaga, mengkonservasi, dan membangun hanya yang terbaik bagi Jakarta. Berbagai layanan dan kebutuhan properti pun telah kami hadirkan. Dari Anda memulai pagi hingga Anda menutup hari. Mulai dari hunian, perkantoran, pusat perbelanjaan, fasilitas umum, hingga perhotelan. Dengan visi menjadi perusahaan pengembang yang terkemuka dan berkelanjutan di Indonesia, serta misi mengembangkan bisnis properti yang mendukung strategi dan program kerja Pemprov DKI Jakarta. Untuk menunjang pengembangan kawasan perkotaan yang bersifat modern, Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya melakukan master plan dan rancangan master developer agar kedepannya proses rancangan induk kawasan perkotaan berjalan dengan baik yang bersifat strategis. Salah satunya melakukan pengembangan kawasan perdagangan terbesar se-Asia Tenggara, yaitu Sentra Primer Tanah Abang. Dengan terus melakukan inovasi yang berkelanjutan, kami menembus batas ruang dan waktu. Semua didukung dengan sumber daya manusia yang kompeten, serta teknologi yang mumpuni. Dengan mengedepankan profesional, setia, dan jujur, kami bertekad memenangkan persaingan untuk membangun Jakarta. Karena kami meyakini bahwa kekuatan kami berasal dari kolaborasi yang saling mendukung, suportif, dan profesional. Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya melayani Jakarta, kebanggaan Indonesia.
Di saat kami mulai membangun, inovasi mulai menapak maju. Tuntutan untuk pergerakan kemajuan transportasi perkotaan semakin dibutuhkan. Sebagai anak perusahaan PT Jakarta Propertindo Berseroda, LRT Jakarta diberikan kepercayaan untuk terus bekerja keras demi mewujudkan solusi mobilitas publik di Jakarta. Berbagai keunggulan dan kecanggihan fasilitas depo yang dimiliki oleh LRT Jakarta, kami percaya akan mampu